That was loud as fuck. Hello people, Ivy here, and it's been a while since last upload. I missed you all so much, so I've got a good news today. So much of you asked about templates in Reaper, so much people tried to recreate templates by themselves facing whole bunch of different problems, so I decided to help you out in it. Starting from this tutorial, all file packs will include Reaper templates as well. Gotta say, I never thought that it can be so fucking hard to understand workflow of other DAW. I literally spent hours and hours trying to figure out how to do basic things, so in search of them answers I started stalking around YouTube and then discovered Reaper TV, so big shout out to this channel, it made my life so much easier. If you want to know more about Reaper, or maybe want to learn some mixing tricks, get some useful tips, I highly recommend to check out his channel. It's fucking great, really. I'll put link in the description. Anyway, without being said and without further ado, let's move on to the shit. Let's start from Guitar's Reamping project. Pretty much the same way as I did last time, we gonna split bass and guitar reamping projects from the main one to save CPU power. So what we have here is double-tracked rhythm guitars, panned hard left and right. There is also double-tracked background octave guitars. In first part of the track they act like background lead with its own melody over rhythm. And in second part they play same melody as rhythm guitars, but one octave higher. Let's start from individual channels of rhythm guitars first. Both have same processing on it, so we will review only one of them. First plugin in chain is Virtual Guitar Processor Revolver 4th, which we're gonna use to get pedal and amp distortion. Let's take a look. Very first thing here is Input Mixer, where you can set up pickup RMS and input gain. I come up with these settings. Speaking of pedal board, we have Simple Screamer pedal, which adds tiny bit of distortion to the sound and helps to keep distortion of amp in more linear way. And now actual amplifier. Even though you can see them settings, lots of shit happens behind the scenes, and I'm talking about schematics tweaking. I'm not gonna spend your time reviewing all of them shits cause none of you gonna watch this anyways. So just as always I will put this preset at the additional files pack. Effects section seems to be empty. Same about output mixer section. Be sure to use same gain adjust parameters here on output gain section to save original levels. Internal impulse loader is turned off, cause we're about to use some of my custom made impulses using Keyfair impulse loader. Check that shit. Just as always you'll find this one in the additional files pack for this guide. After that both channels goes to GTR bus. First thing here is Valhalla Room Reverb. Effect is very subtle because of low mix amount. However, it helps to add bit of space to our digital shits and make it tiny bit more natural. First, bus correction impulse. Purpose of this one is to finalize guitar tone timbre and kind of lock reverb response inside of it. CLA76 compressor will help us to get control on overall dynamics of guitars and also decrease boomy resonances that sometimes comes from palm mutes. Last correction impulse. This one represents pre-master equalization from old master bus of main mixing session. So when we use this rendered guitars in main mixing session, they will be mix ready as fuck. Let's go for ambient guitars now. First two plugins from these channels are a complete copy of main GTR channels. So what we have over it is different correction impulse which acts like tone converter. You only need to put it over main reamping patch to get that ambient guitar tone. Next thing, mono delay. Important to note that tempos of reamping projects should match tempo of the main one, otherwise you can get weird ass feedback from delay. And right after we have our all-time shimmer reverb with these settings. These guitars pan pretty much the same as the main ones, 100% left and 100% right. Both routed to GTR ambient bus which doesn't have any processing at all. I only use it for one-pass multi-channel export. Last track in this template is emissary version of guitar patches. So in this one I used only free plugins for those of you who don't have Revolver. Here's the settings. If you want to get similar rhythm guitar sounding, you should route this channel to GTR bus which I already did here. Let's do little comparison. I'm gonna loop this last section of the song and switch between this channel and GTRL to see if there is any difference. And if you want to get similar ambient tone, just route it to GTRM bus and apply same ambient post-correction impulse, delay and reverb over it. You will get same results. So once you're done with editing and reamping, set up start and locators, open up audio mixdown window, activate multi-out export option and choose GTR and GTR ambient buses for export and start the shit. Next stop, bass template. Just as always I use Trillion for bass sampling. Hardcore finger pause on the shit, full range thick pause again samples here. Notice that all internal processing is bypassed. So amp section is bypassed too, and we only have direct signal with this amount, cause we're gonna process this shit externally. Speaking of inserts, first plugin in chain is K-Fire with impulse designed for Trillion's tone correction. Check this out. What it does is rebuilding DI tone of Trillion to more common bass tone, which is very easy to work with. Next step, R47 distortion pedal by TSE. Got to say, I was surprised by how great it sounds on bass, a straight up fire. Check this shit. And right after I use second DI correction impulse to do a basic match of bass tone according to isolated bass part from reference album. Now I want to split this channel to 2 for parallel processing of them shits. Y'all already know this trick with real-time splitting in Cubase. Turn off output of Trillion, create 2 stereo FX channels and apply sends to them from Trillion's track. Now we have it separated to mono and stereo channels, but it's just the names of tracks. As I already said, both of them are stereo. Let's start from this one. First plugin in chain is CLA76 with factory preset called Bass. Use this one for general dynamic control. Next thing, NLS. Mic mode gonna give us some of that warm ass low end, and dual mono mode will give us tiny bit of that stereo randomization. Already told you about this trick in previous guides. And now stereo channel. As you can guess, this one gonna be stereo part of our bass tone, So first plugin and chain is stereo delay. We only need to create short delay without any feedback for left and right channels, so feedback is turned off for both. Left channel have 15 milliseconds delay to be separated from mono channel and right channel have 35 milliseconds delay to be separated from the left. There is also high pass and low pass filters for both to get rid of unwanted picking clicks and low end frequencies which we don't really need in stereo. So as a result we move the shit from mono to stereo, thanks to Haas effect. Next thing, EQ with high pass filter and dropped mid-range effect will be more noticeable with bus processing turned on. And right after I use same NLS settings as on mono channel for same purposes. Notice that this channel have much lower level comparing to mono. Now both goes to Reamping patch bus for final processing. First thing in chain is stereo imager. This one gonna help us to get correct amount of stereo part of the bass in different parts of spectrum. NLS with same settings, this time only for saturation. Next plugin, Pro L, which doesn't do shit but compressed rare peaks and rebalance signal because of difference in input and output levels. Sorry for this one, I only realized this while filming it, so this plugin is completely unnecessary. Pro Q. Here I cut out some of that annoying 5 kHz noise. Multibin compressor and mid-side mode. Speaking of mid-part, only third band gets triggered with about 5 decibels of gain reduction, but at the same time I used automatic gain compensation, which means that we only bring up short 2 milliseconds transient and generally keep this zone more dense. Speaking of side part, pretty much all bands gets triggered, so as a result we get more stable dynamics of stereo and also have it in much less level now. Pretty much the same way as we did on guitars, I use another post-correction impulse for final timbre shape of bass. And right after we have CLA 76 with bass preset for final dynamic control. As a side effect, we've got pretty cool first hit attack. Check this shit. Last correction impulse includes pre-master equalization from old master bus of main mixing session, pretty much the same thing as we did in guitar template. After all of that, this bus goes to another bus called stereo control with only one plugin on board. If you listen closely enough, you probably noticed that low-end part of our bass lies pretty much out of center, so I used mono maker option of Brainworks control to get rid of that effect below 350 Hz. And before we'll finally go for rendering, just wanna note that I used constant 123 velocity here. You can go even lower, it doesn't make too much difference, but if you want to get same sound as I have, be sure to stuck with 123. So that's pretty much it for bass. Set up your locators and start export from stereo out or from stereo control bus. There is no difference. So for this tutorial I decided to use my modern metal drums model, which I filmed about 3 or 4 months ago. However, this time we're gonna have fundamental changes in this. First of all, just as always I use complex pack of them different drum shits. So what we got here is Superior Drummer Metal Foundry, which is our main drum kit. Snare trigger that I got from Superior Drummer Avatar from one of them presets from Bub Pack. SSD kick trigger, which means that we use Steven Slate drums for the shit. And same thing with the snare trigger. So let's start from Metal Foundry kit. As you can see, it looks slightly different now, so while I click all over them elements, you can check names of used samples in this window, and also level and multiple hit emulation settings in this one. No any kind of internal processing, because we're gonna do it all outside of sampler, so we use multi-out mode, which means that each mic or group of mics goes to its own output outside of sampler. Your boy finally figured out how to make channels names longer, so you can see where each out of Superior is routed to. All of them channels have customized bleed settings different from original drums template, so instead of reviewing all of them shits, there will be Superior Drummer preset at the additional files. Here you will also find this drum map, which I made for this drum kit, makes drums programming very easy. And speaking of velocity, I used constant 127 everywhere. Now let's go for processing, starting from kick. First plugin is Envelope Shaper, which decreases 16 milliseconds attack, so kick's transient sounds bit less aggressive. SSL channel with kick drum preset. Not sure if I haven't changed anything here, but still, you can see it pretty clear. Next thing, Pro Q with pretty complicated equalization on board. Use this one to clean up the spectrum and also boost highs for brightness. NLS and mic mode. Amount of drive is pretty solid, plus we use dual mono mode, which means that kick goes slightly off of center. Our bass exciter to focus low end body of kick and make it heavier. Cleaning EQ to get rid of unwanted sub-lows, resonance around 100 Hz, couple harshy zones on mids, and also clicky highs for smoothness control. Pro C compressor and sidechain mode. Driven by snare, it will duck our kick when snare drum hits the shit. This way we won't have stacking transients in case if both of them shits will hit the shit at the same time. SSD kick trigger. Important to note that this channel is separate single channel VSTI. Here we use Kick Black NRG from SSD4. This sample belongs to Classic Signature Pack. Here's the levels. Bleed settings doesn't make sense because I turned off the room. Speaking of processing, first thing in chain is EQ with transparent timbre shape on lows and highs. SSL compressor for slight control of dynamics. .670 compressor by T-Rax. If you watched that Modern Drums tutorial, you should remember fuck up with compressors separation, so for this channel it stays untriggered, works only on SSD snare. It also boosts volume, so I decided to leave it as it is. Last EQ finalize cleaning work on highs. There is also send to side chain compressor on overheads from here, but we'll go for that later. Now both channels goes to kick bus with only 2 plugins on board. So first one is Pro C. This compressor gonna glue and compress 2 kicks together. We use pretty big attack to let low end transients pass the shit, also hard need to get more aggressive style of compression. Next thing, Keyfair Impulse Loader with Kick Post Correction Impulse. This one includes all of them 1000 EQs that I had here in earlier versions of template, but when I started to clean up this shit for filming, I found that a lot of equalizers do opposite things. So for example, in first I have boost around 60 Hz and in third same zone will be dropped, which doesn't make any fucking sense. But at the same time I wanted to get exact same sounding with less amount of EQs on board and decided to pack it all to this impulse. Check this out. Generally it makes our kick more focused and clear. This bus then goes to drums bus. And also have send to reverb. Snare. First thing is EQ with complex timbre shape. SSL compressor with longer 30 milliseconds attack time and pretty high amount of compression. As a result we get slightly fuller sound. Last EQ finalized timbre work by applying low-pass and high-pass filters, even more cuts on low mids and highs, and finally big-ass boosts of lows and highs again. So processing model for this channel is pretty much follows source project, but this time with much more low end NLS at the end of the chain. SSD snare trigger. What we have inside of sampler is damped Black Beauty 6.5 snare. You can find the sample in SSD4 Deluxe Pack. Mixed in this proportion, again, without room and overheads. Processing outside of sampler is pretty much the same thing as we have on SSD kick trigger. As I already said, these channels was unseparated in the past, so for this one our compressor finally gets triggered. Last EQ doesn't have drop on 7 kHz. Plus we don't have SSL compressor and second insert anymore. Bob snare trigger. This time we use Avatar library, with this snare drum only. This time we mostly go for internal processing, just because I like the way how it sounds. Here's the settings. Speaking of post-processing, we have this EQ here to cut out ringy mids and also add them highs for brightness. Matter fact that this channel have side chain sends to kicks compressor and also to overheads compressor. Now all three snare channels go to snare bus. Pro C compressor for same gluing purposes as we had on kick bus, however this time we use shorter attack, because snare is bit more high-pitched drum comparing to kick. Right after we have this wide timber shape to roll off unwanted sub-lows, ringy noise around 700 Hz, and also bring up overall brightness with wide shape on highs. Multi-bin compressor to get control on low-end and high-end transient content. Second and third bands doesn't get any compression. Also notice difference in attack values for first and fourth bands. Second timber shape, this time applied to signal after multi-bin compressor. CLA 76 with factory snare preset to finalize compression work and also give it solid dose of saturation. Final EQ was done according to mix condition on latest stages of mixing. Same as kick bus, this one have sent to reverb bus. routed to drums bus as well. Processing models of rack and floor toms pretty much follow source drums template, however it doesn't make much sense because in this example I didn't choose toms at all. Both routed to toms bus from where you can apply send to reverb and also use it as toms level controller in front of drums bus. Hi-hat. We don't have this one in the mix as well, so let me draw a short example really quick. So it sounds like this. First plugin is Keyfire with hi-hat correction impulse. Basically I simply matched isolated hi-hat from reference album. NLS for a little dose of console saturation. And last thing in chain is T-Rax Prog EQ, which I used to return some of that presence on 16 kHz. This channel have send to reverb, which probably should be a little bit lower, somewhere around -20 decibels or something like that. %60 panning to left, according to reference track. Routing to drums bus. Overheads. First thing in chain is SSL compressor with OH amp preset, makes overheads fuller and fatter. EQ with complex timbre shape to get rid of unwanted low end bleed and focus important high mids and presence. Sidechain compressor. I told you about this shit earlier, so now you can actually see it doing the shit. Second SSL compressor to make them shit sit well in mix. NLS with same old drive and gain compensation. Overheads post-correction impulse. In my last tutorial I used same source template with overheads, ambience and rides locked in bus called OHM with a lot of post-equalization over it. As you can see here we don't have this bus, so this post-correction impulse just replace that equalization. Maybe plus few little EQ movements over it. You've got the idea. Rides channel. First thing is CLA 76 for aggressive compression, thanks to short attack and release settings. Holy Mother of Da. Complex timber shape which generally makes rides fatter and less ringy. Keep in mind that you can find this and every single other EQ preset from this guide at the additional files pack, just in case if you want to recreate this shit. CLA2A with smooth and obvious compression to help them rides sit and mix. NLS with extreme amount of saturation. Notice that I used output gain compensation here to have better idea about pure effect of this plugin. Same post correction as we had on overheads, I just gived it unique name. Send to reverb. Ambience channel. Same as in source project, I have SSL channel with factory room preset. Helps to uncover colors of room. Y'all already know what's popping with room compression. Keyfire with ambience resulting correction impulse. This is probably the most complicated one. It includes shit ton of equalizers which I had on this channel in previous guide and also bus equalization, pretty much the same way as overheads. Last thing in chain is EQ, which I added at the very last moment before filming of this tutorial. What it does is remove problem resonance which could mess up our kick. Let me unmute it for demonstration. These 3 channels are routed to drums bus as well, so let's finally go for that. First thing in chain is Pro Q without any equalization. I only use it as attenuator to create enough headroom before signal goes to NLS. Too hot signal could provide way much more saturation than I need. So here it is, NLS bus in mic mode. Right after I use EQ to get rid of unwanted lows on the side of the stereo and also compensate incoming attenuation by applying 7 decibels boost. Automatic timbre correction using isotope ozone 5 EQ. In this case target timbre is based on isolated drums from reference album, however it was done on early stages of mixing, so a lot EQs from drum channels was designed to work through this and other correction EQs from this bus. A major to widen up them higher mids. And final thing is limiter. I use this one to squash them spiky peaks coming from snare, so now we have snares peaks under control and also glued with the rest of drum kit little more. EQ with dropped boxy zone in the mids. It's pretty noticeable if listen to the kick drum. Check this out. Basically it was added before I figured true causes of it. At first I thought that this noise is product of kick drum compressed by this limiter. Looks like I just forgot to check it. That's why I use the EQ after limiter and not in front of it or even on kick bus. Later I figured out that kick doesn't even get any compression from limiter, and only after that I figured out that this noise comes from both kick and ambience buses. Last thing in chain is post-correction impulse, which includes old pre-master equalization, same as we had on guitars and bass. So now we can finally add other elements of mix which we prepared earlier. As you can see, I did some editing here to get rid of unwanted tails of guitars and bass, and also decrease amount of reverb tail from ambient guitars. Same as our drums bus, all of these tracks are routed to master bus. There is almost no any processing on them shits, so let's start from rhythm guitars. Here I decreased 2 resonating zones on low mids. However, it doesn't make much sense. Second plugin is a sidechain compressor driven by kick bus. As you can see, I already applied this send and also sent a bass sidechain. Generally it helps to fit these instruments deeper in mix. Let me turn off output of kick bus so you can hear pure effect. There is also subtle send to reverb. Ambient guitars only have this little cut around 1500 Hz to get rid of frequency conflict between this channel and percussion. No any reverb here because we already have whole bunch of that shit. Bass. Little drop on lows here. And sidechain compression driven by kick bus. In case of this channel, it's mostly about better interaction of kick and bass. They don't fight each other as much as they could. subtle center reverb. Most of our channels or buses have sent to this reverb FX channel, which responsible for space image of our mix. That's how it sounds. First thing in chain is low pass EQ. This way I smoothen up signal that gonna be passed through reverb, which by the way has this settings. Right after reverb we have another EQ, but this time we cut off unwanted low end to keep our mix cleaner. Just as all the other channels, this one is routed to master bus, so before we will finally go for it, take a look at them levels and panning settings of mix one more time. So master processing is pretty simple. First thing in chain is stereo imager, to widen up our mid-range. Multibin compressor. This one will make our mix bit more compact in case of dynamics. Notice that attack settings is different for each band. Lower bands use longer attack time to pass kicks and snares attacks without squashing them too much, while higher bands use very short attack time to emphasize high-end transients of kick and snare. Next step, automatic timbre correction according to reference. The only thing I didn't like here is this little boost of presence. So right after I used another EQ to roll it back just a bit. And final limiter to boost overall RMS of the mix and get control on them peaks. So that's pretty much it. For those of you who want to get additional files pack, which includes pack of 3 Cubase templates, pack of source DI and MIDI files in case if you use other DAW, full pack of impulses used in this guide, pack of matching sessions for Isotope Ozone 5 EQ, pack of Pro Q presets, same pack of templates recreated in Reaper, pack of presets for Revolver 4 including module presets for 6505 and Greener Pedal. This pack also includes Superior Drummer presets, and Custom Drum Map. You will find all of them sheets in my private post on Patreon, which will be available after pledging $1. By doing this you will also get access for rest of my private content and help me keep doing what I do. Link is in the description. So hope you learned thing or two from this guide. See you next time.